this country resembles the name of the most famous biblical river, but most of its territory is covered with boundless deserts. Mountains are everywhere around, but this is where the lowest point on Earth is located. Here, high technology gets along with the traditions of nomadic Bedouin tribes. The known history of Jordan counts 9,000 years. Ammonites, Moabites, Greeks, Romans and Byzantines lived here. There was also a long Muslim period. But currently, Jordan is a Hashemite kingdom. Abdul Razak knows everything or almost everything about his country, so we started our trip to Jordan from meeting him. To grasp the most important thing about that country, we told him we only had one day. Jordan is not a big country, but it has so many interesting sites that it takes at least 2 weeks to see them all. If you have only one day, you surely need to see Amman with its ancient citadel, then go to Mount Nebo, where Moses first saw the Promised Land, then visit the place on the River Jordan where Jesus Christ was baptized, and finally walk down to the Dead Sea. But you are going to have a busy day. The trip will take you all day long, from dawn to dusk. This is a land of contrasts and paradoxes. Some of the top 10 ancient cities can be found here, but the state of Jordan itself emerged in the 20th century. The most striking contrasts here go through people's lives. Jordan's history remembers tyrants as well as great righteous men. Some of them became heroes of biblical stories, others are remembered by the local people with shame. Someone's story is over, and someone else's is only just beginning. I could ride down this road with closed eyes. I remember its every dent, and I can tell by ear how many turns are left to go. I don't have to guide my horse because he knows the way as well as I do. Sometimes I loosen the reins and go into listening. The echo tells me about those who have traveled the same way before me. And I am also waiting. I am waiting impatiently as a child, like my little son waits for me at home. I laugh at myself. What could change during this couple of hours? Nothing. But every meeting is different. I have seen it many times, but every time is like the first time. Here is the last turn. Now I'm going to see it again. This city emerged at a caravan crossroads in the desert. It was owned by Idumeans, Nabateans, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, and Crusaders, one after another. Centuries passed, and civilizations changed here, and dynasties emerged and passed away. But Petra has always remained inviolable like a stone island in the midst of a boundless desert sea. After all, this name is translated as stone. Burial vaults of the ancient kings are the most astonishing structures here. And if this is just vaults, what did the city look like then? In its golden age, Petra was the capital of a huge state. In the Byzantine times, it was decorated with churches. The remains of a 4th century temple where a huge stone tank can be found are in the very center of Petra. Rainwater was carefully collected in the tank, and not only for drinking. The temple had a baptistry where newly converted Christians were baptized. The floor of the temple is tiled with a mosaic depicting the seasons of the year. Here we can find summer with a sheaf of wheat in its hands, and autumn giving its generous fruits. More than 80 mosaic medallions depict animals that inhabited this land a long time ago. Wildlife here was probably far richer than it is today. Scrolls of papyrus were the most valuable finding in the temple. They nearly perished in a fire, but were fortunately recovered from the ashes. Papyrus documents, almost burned down, were found during excavations in the church in 1992 and 1993. The church was probably destroyed by a fire and an earthquake in 747. Some of these papyrus documents have been successfully restored in Canada and are now displayed in one of Jordan museums in the city of Amman. These documents reveal the town folks' everyday life, the way people lived in the city. The barely preserved lines of residential tenancy agreements, realty devices, exchange contracts and agreements highlight the fact that the city was alive. Its inhabitants made their plans, dreamed, traveled, and probably were as eager to come back home as we are. Today the streets of Petra are full of life as well, but a different life. Thousands of people come here every day to see one of the 7 wonders of the world. Chwishelne Wafle is the only one who will stay here today, tomorrow, and all the next days. Petra is his own home. He has seen so many sunsets in Petra, but he likes its dawns better. Al-Khazne is the main object in Petra, but as for me, I like bare rocks and chasms better. Especially in the morning, when it is calm and quiet and the light is very soft. But at the same time, Petra looks better with crowds of walking people. Without them, it is like an orphan. Perhaps it's only time itself that is older than the city. It has been flowing like a river, leaving barely noticeable traces on the stones of Petra. Maybe this is the lost paradise? Maybe that's why Petra always remains young. I like this holiday. It is very chilly this day in my native country. Usually I go to the river and cut an ice hole for a long time. The river responds with icy sparkles until water rushes out of the hole. I always imagine the Jordan River at these moments. I imagined its might and its boundless banks. But Jordan turned out to be quite different. Everything is within arm's reach here. Probably here stood the forerunner, and there in the crowd he saw Christ. It seems like he's still out there, among the people, waiting quietly for his turn to come to the water. I like this holiday very much, but here at the Jordan, everything is different. One day, the first preaching of John the Baptist sounded on this bank. He had chosen this place not without reason. The Jews have always believed that this was where their ancestors crossed the Jordan River, finishing their 4-decade-long journey across the desert. Their flight from Egypt was to become the prefiguration of the liberation from the slavery of sin. John's preaching gathered big crowds, and it's interesting to know where the forerunner was standing when he saw Christ. But the Jordan River has doubled on trace, over the past 2000 years.
Долгие годы ученые, библеисты спорили о том,
For many years, biblical scholars have argued about the exact location of the actual place of the baptism.
это было трудно установить.
It was difficult to establish because, for a long time, the Jordan River was a cross-border military zone with no access.
Был закрыт. И вот
Now, since 1994, when a peace agreement was signed between the Kingdom of Jordan and Israel, access to this place has been open, and the scientists have established that the true place of the baptism ought to be on the Jordanian side.
Нужно искать истинное место крещения с иорданской стороны.
Like all the rivers of the Northern Hemisphere, the Jordan River gradually shifts its bed from east to west, undermining its right bank. During 2000 years, this section has shifted dozens of meters westward. But the place of the baptism has not been lost. It was identified by the remains of temples built around the font. A long time ago, water filled it in a natural way due to the river current.
هناك كنيسة ذكرت من قبل رحالة اسمها كنيسة الرداء فريدة جدا بتصميمها.
Here, John the Baptist pointed to Jesus Christ and said, "Behold the Lamb of God." Here the Holy Spirit descended as a dove, and the Father's voice sounded from the sky. At least 5 temples replaced each other on the site. They were destroyed by floods and earthquakes, but our fathers never gave up. They built a new church here again. This is the only temple in the world where water of the Jordan River is used in its natural form to baptize believers. This is the lowest point on earth, but it is the closest to heaven, because it is the place where Christianity was born. There is an undistinguished field near the place of the baptism. Sightseeing buses rarely stop here. Thorns, rock, and sand are everywhere around. Everybody rushes to the Jordan River. But if you stay on, you can see the ruins of an ancient Byzantine church. This temple stood on the site of the ascension of Elijah, the most famous Old Testament prophet. Elijah became so perfect in his prophetic ministry that God took him to heaven in his body. But one day the prophet will come back. Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike look forward to him and ask every new prophet, "Are you Elijah?" And they sigh with relief every time they hear no, because the return of Elijah would mean that the human history is coming to an end. I was born in the desert and have never seen such beauty. This land flows with milk and honey. Its fruits are tastier than manna we ate in the desert. This land is impossible to describe, but I have to do it. Joshua, the son of Nun, has sent us 3 men from each tribe. We need to survey this land. It will be distributed to the people according to our description. Almighty God promised us this land many years ago. We have been waiting for a long time, but now it is harder and harder. I am struggling to find words to describe the land, but words elude me because I was born in the desert and have never seen such beauty. descriptions of the Holy Land, but this map was the first of its kind. It was created in the 7th century AD. It has not been fully preserved, but the holy city of Jerusalem can be perfectly seen in it, together with the Temple of the Resurrection and the city gates. And here we can see Bethlehem, Ephrath, Jericho, Gilgal, and Akeldama, the names that seem to have leapt from Bible pages. Archaeologists believe that the author of the map had never seen the holy places himself and drew it after the stories of pilgrims. He listened to their stories day by day, splitting sparkling pieces of smalt. 2 million pieces, the map consisted of that many elements in its original state. It is hard to imagine that the map was made only by one person. But you start to believe it looking at the work of Seri Hassan. He first tried to split smalt when he was 20. It took him 8 years to become a true expert with his own apprentices. He says that the most difficult thing in the work of a mosaicist is rendering faces. The most difficult thing is to work in traditional mosaic technique with the stones from 2 to 3 millimeters in size. You have to be very precise in rendering faces. It is also hard to draw the map of the Holy Land. It should be precise. In case of a mistake, the whole work should be dismantled and recomposed again. In the Byzantine period, mosaics not only decorated temples, but also transmitted written letters, stories of events, and maps. If we look at this copy of the Holy Land map, we can see that it covers the territory from Lebanon and Syria in the north, showing Palestine, Jericho, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, the Jordan River crossing, and the Dead Sea. In the south, it reaches the Gaza Strip, Egypt, and the Nile Delta. The Church of St. George in Madaba is known for its unique mosaic map, but is not much different from other churches' exteriors. There are a lot of such temples in the east. However, the school adjacent to the church creates a unique atmosphere. 2,000 children study here. The principal of the school is a priest. His name is Inokenti. He is Greek himself. He has built a school where Christians study together with Muslims. This is good, because it unites people, children and their parents, all who live in Madaba. The city is called the most Christian city in Jordan. Christians make more than half of its population. Maybe that's because of the map, where the history of the Holy Land is reflected like in a mirror. My master is good, but I don't understand him. He kept this man for a long time. I think that the prisoner must have known some secret. My master talked to him. For the first time in my life, I saw my master crying after listening to his words. Nobody knows where he came from. Some people say he grew up in the desert. Others saw him near a river crossing. Many people listened to him there. He knew some special words. But he is no more. My master gave me an order, and I could not disobey. Although my master is good, I don't understand him. Herod the Great built 6 huge fortresses all over Judea. Perhaps he didn't clearly realize whom he would hide from in one of those fortresses: the Romans, who had never trusted him, or his own people, who outspokenly disliked the self-proclaimed king. Today, the remains of Machaerus fortress remind not only about Herod the Great, they also tell us about Herod Antipas. According to the tradition, this is the place where Herodiad's daughter danced for the king during a feast, and the king liked her dance. He promised to give her anything she wanted. She asked for the head of the prophet who had baptized Jesus. Every time I leave home, I eagerly look forward to my return. I'm even glad to leave the city, because I will feel so happy to see it again. Our people say that the homeland lies in the range of 3 days horseback ride. 3 days is too little to look round the whole of Jordan, but it is enough for me to miss Amman. Amman is my real motherland. It is home to half the country's population. Tourists in my van don't understand my city. It seems all the same to them. But how is it possible to confuse its center with the ancient citadel and the Roman theater with a residential district near Islamic University? Amman is believed to be one of the most ancient cities in the world, but to me, it is the youngest. There are not so many skyscrapers in the city because Amman has experienced devastating earthquakes. Ruins of different epochs bulge from the ground here and there, and highways of the modern city respectfully go around them. The rapid pace of life slows down a bit on Friday, the official day off in any Islamic country. Christians are used to it and go to their churches not on Sundays but on Fridays, when everyone else has a rest. The biggest Orthodox church of Amman bears the name of the entrance of Jesus into the Temple of Jerusalem. That's how the local Christians call the feast of the meeting of the Lord. Everything resembles Ukraine here. Ceremonious elderly women following the run of their service after special books, and children eager to read from a clearus. Except one thing, people worship in Arabic. There are about 50 Orthodox churches all over the country, but there is only one monastery so far. I love rain. It only rains here in winter. Rains fill water sources, giving life to new crops. The sound of rain brings to my mind the story of the monastery's foundation. Our confessor, Father Christopher, decided to build a church starting from scratch. When an architect asked him about money, the father told him he only had 200 dinars. Nobody believes one could dare build a church with so little money, but Father Christopher grasped the nettle and started digging. And then it began to rain, even though it never rains here in summer. It happened in the hot July of 2004. More than 10 years have passed since that famous rain. The monastery officially opened a short time ago, on February 12, 2016. Nun Irania was appointed Mother Superior. But no one is still able to find any mention about this monastery in Jordan guidebooks. It is open to visitors only for a couple of hours, and not every day. A stringent statute stands behind the monastery's outer beauty. There are only 5 sisters in the cloister. The main church of the monastery is consecrated to the icon of the Mother of God, life-giving spring. The Mother Superior speaks a little Russian. She says that the Kiev Cave Patericon is one of her favorite books, so she is very glad to see the guests from Kiev. Watching how lovingly she leafs through the pages of the Patericon, we wondered what a small place the world is. One can travel for half the lifetime just to make the main discovery on the way home. You cannot look around old Jordan in several days. It is hardly long enough to break popular myths about that country. Mistreating Christians by Muslims is one of them.
الأردن بلد السلام وما عمره كان عندنا العنصرية الحمد لله بنشكر الله.
I am a native Jordanian and I am a Christian. We have never had any problems with Muslims. We have always had peace between us, and I hope it will never break in the future. It is only while communicating with these people that you realize that you have only known myths about Jordan. The myths dispel one after another, but the land never reveals all of its secrets. It remains the mysterious place where heaven once touched the earth and God spoke to a man. I come here every day. From this mountain, Moses saw the land he had been dreaming about for 40 years. He had seen the land, but never set foot on it. He went to heaven from here, so nobody has ever known where his body is. I believe that the earth ends here, and a completely different way, the way to heaven, begins.